Welcome back to another MHSAA State Champions Predictions video. This time we are going to be going over the D6 bracket and my favorite to win the state championship. Let's get it. Our first matchup of Region 1, District 1, we have Kingsley versus Calumet, and thank goodness Kingsley does not have to go to Calumet because here's Calumet way up here, and here's the rest of their district. So lucky for everybody, they are the fourth team. With that being said, their record, their matchups, their opponents are not quite as good as Kingsley's, so I will be giving this one to Kingsley. Our second matchup of this district is Traverse City St. Francis versus Boyne City. They have the same record. Traverse City St. Francis had a bye. You're supposed to play 9 games. So they pretty much have the same record, and they faced each other earlier in the year. Traverse City St. Francis did win by 1 touchdown, and with that being said, I think they will do it again. I think they'll get the victory over Boyne City. District 2, the first game, we have Reed City versus Sanford Meridian. 7-2 versus 6-3. First matchup this year. Their loss was to previously undefeated Big Rapids and Kingsley of the district above. And Sanford Meridian has a very, very bad conference. All these teams in the middle here are just horrible. Yeah, with that being said, I'm going to take Reed City on this one. Next game of District 2, we have Central Montcalm versus Montague. 7-2 versus 5-4. Montcalm has one big loss and one close loss against two very good teams. And Montague, just overall a rough season. I think this one's an easy choice for Central Montcalm. Now, Region 2, District 1, we have a very intriguing matchup in our first game. Belding versus Ovid Elsley. 8-1 versus 7-2. This whole district is very good. But Ovid Elsie played very close games in both of their losses to great teams. Belding's one loss was they got destroyed. Maybe someone was hurt, maybe it was a rainy game, who knows. But they got destroyed by previously mentioned Reed City. With that being said, I'm going to take the big upset here in Ovid Elsie. Our second game of this district, a great district, Olivet versus Kent City, 8-1 versus 9-0. Olivet's one loss is they got destroyed by undefeated Portland, and I think that's really going to be the deciding factor. You look at Kent City's schedule here, playoff team. I know they're 3-6, but they were a playoff team. Previously mentioned Central Montcalm here, they beat them, and playoff team Howard City. So I just think Kent City's schedule is and their reputation's a little better, so I'm going to pick Kent City. Here we go in our second district, the first matchup, Montrose versus Flint New Standard Academy. Now you might see this and think undefeated versus 8-1. This is going to be a great matchup. But Flint New Standard was the 29th out of 32 teams, even though they're 8-1, because their schedule is so bad. 1-7, 2-7, 0-9, 1-8, 0-9. Their schedule was just so horrible that their record really doesn't do them justice. They're not a very good team. Montrose is going to destroy them. Our second game of District 2, we have Flint Hamady versus Durand. 6-3 versus 7-2, but the 6-3 team is the home team. I just don't think Hamady is that good though, even though they're the home team. A lot of those wins are the previously mentioned terrible teams that I talked about here. I think Durand's wins and their overall resume is just a lot better. I don't think Hamady's going to win. I think Durand's got this one. Our Region 3 District 1 first game is title favorites Jackson Lumen Christi versus Onstead. Jackson Lumen Christi, the most successful team in all of Michigan football history. They have 15 state championships, and they're looking to pick up another one this year versus an Onstead team that, quite frankly, stands no chance. Second matchup of this district, we have Napoleon versus Buchanan. Both teams come in at 6-3, but Buchanan's schedule is a lot worse and their losses are worse. So I think this one's going to go to Napoleon. District 2 first matchup, we have Ecorse versus Adrian Madison. 7-2 versus 5-4. I think eCourse overall has a much better resume. They have some big wins on here this season, and I'm going to pick them over Adrian. Ida versus Dearborn Heights Robichaud. Ida played two very close games against my pick to win D8 states, Hudson and Clinton, another good team in D7. I just don't think Dearborn Heights, yeah, they have a couple close games, but they also have a loss to a team that didn't even make the playoffs. So I'm going to pick Ida for this one. In our last region, first district, first matchup, we have Detroit Edison versus Detroit Central. Now, all of these teams here are in similar conferences or even the same conference, and they all play super tiny. Look at this, 78-0, 0-8. Super tiny Detroit public schools that nobody ever plays football at, and everybody's terrible. With that being said, somebody's got to win the matchup, and I think Edison's resume is slightly better, especially with a very close win against Almont. I'm going to pick Edison. Our second matchup of that district, we have Detroit Pershing versus Warren Michigan Collegiate. Warren Michigan Collegiate lost to previously mentioned eCourse in a close game. And some of their other wins, some of their other losses, excuse me, are not that bright. Let's just say that. Detroit Pershing, like I said before, they're in that same district as the rest of these teams. They barely beat Detroit Central 6-0. This one is going to be a toss-up just because neither of these teams are really that good, but I will go ahead and pick Warren, Michigan for this one. Our last district here to mention, Almont, potential state favorites Almont versus Clinton Township Clintondale. 9-0 Almont, just a wrecking ball through their schedule versus Clinton Township Clintondale, who had a rough stretch here in the middle of the season, albeit by some quite good teams. Now this one might be a little closer than the records show, but I'm still gonna go with Almont on this one. Our final matchup to mention of the first round, Marine City versus Clawson. Both teams come in with a 6-3 record. Marine City's losses are close, all three of them close games to very good teams. And Clawson's three losses are not so close to not so good teams. But with that being said, I'm going to pick Marine City to move on in this one. So the district championship of the first round, Kingsley versus Traverse City St. Francis. Traverse City St. Francis is one of the teams expected to make a run to the championship. They played each other earlier in the year. Kingsley only lost by 1 point. I think it's going to be different this time around. I think Kingsley is going to come out on top. In our second matchup here, we have Reed City versus Central Montcalm. This one is a tough one to pick. It really could go either way. Both teams coming in at 7-2, but I will go with the home team and the favorite, Reed City. Another very interesting matchup here in our next game, Ovid LC versus Kent City, 7-2 versus undefeated, but a lot of people are down on them, even though they're undefeated, including me. I'm going to go with the upset here, Ovid LC over Kent City. With our second district of Region 2, we have Montrose versus Durand. They did play earlier in the year, and Montrose destroyed Durand 45-0. Although I do think Durand is better than that, and this game will probably be closer. I'm gonna go with Durand. I'm gonna go with Montrose. They're just way too good. Region 3, our first district, Jackson Lumen Christi versus Napoleon. There's really not much to say about this one. Jackson Lumen Christi is going to win. District 2 championship, E-Course versus Ida. Ida has those couple of close losses that I like, and E-Course's resume isn't all that good. I'm going to go with the underdog here in Ida to beat E-Course. In our Region 4 first district, we have Edison versus Warren. Really, in this entire district, I think anything could happen. These are all of those small Detroit teams. I don't know if any of them are actually favorites to win it. Somebody has to be, obviously, but they're all just so close. It's hard to tell any of them apart. So I will just go with the top dog in Edison to come out with the championship. In our final district championship, Almont versus Marine City. Undefeated Almont, two of Marine City's losses also lost to Almont. So just by that power, I think I'm going to have to go with Almont here. Now for the regional championships. Our first matchup, Kingsley versus Reed City. One loss Kingsley, which they avenged, versus undefeated Reed City. But Reed City's not all that, and they are going to have to travel a ways from this one to this one. If they're going to go to Kingsley, I'm going to pick Kingsley to keep rolling and beat Reed City. Second regional championship, Ovid LC versus Montrose. Once again a rematch. This one much closer than the last Durand game, but I don't think Ovid LC has what it takes. I think Montrose is having a monster season. See what I did there? And I think they are going to come out on top once again. Here we are in our third region, Jackson Lumen Christi versus Ida. I just think you want to say something about every game, but I just think Jackson Lumen Christi is too good of a team. It's going to be hard for anyone to beat them. And in our last regional, we have Edison versus undefeated Almont. Whatever team gets here from the first district, they've really got no shot. Any of these teams on the bottom district are better than them. That's just the way it goes, and that includes Edison. They have no chance to beat Almont. Here we are in our semi-final matchups. The first game, Kingsley versus Montrose, 8-1 versus undefeated. They avenged their loss from before, Kingsley did, on their way to the semis, but I think Montrose is just too good of a team. They're not going to be able to knock them off, and they're going to stay perfect. In the other semifinals matchup, we have Jackson Lumen Christi versus undefeated Almont. And although Jackson Lumen Christi is 6-3, their record is extremely deceiving as they've lost to two D1 teams, including potentially the best team in Illinois as well, and a great D4 team. It's just not much to say about this. Even though Almont is undefeated, it's going to be very tough to get past Jackson Lumen Christi. And with that being said, we have come to our finals, our championship matchup of Montrose versus Jackson Lumen Christi. As much as I want those farm boys, those public school kids in Montrose to take down the big bad private school, it's just, I don't see it happening. I don't know if anyone sees it happening. Jackson Lumen Christi is on a monster season this year, and it's going to continue by winning the Oak Mitten.